We're going to talk cut candidates on today's video. Some big names the Cowboys could actually dump this offseason. Before I give you my list, I want to hear from you guys. Who do you want to cut? Got to keep it realistic, but drop a name for me in the comments section. This is the Cowboys Report. I am Tom Downey, and unlike most years, the Cowboys have the flexibility to cut some fairly significant names from their roster this season. First up, DeMarcus Lawrence. Now, Lawrence is a good football player, but he missed a lot of time this year with injury. He has a $27 million cap hit this upcoming season. You cannot keep Lawrence at that cap figure. If you cut him before June 1st, which means you can use the money for free agency, you save $8 million. If you cut him after June 1st or designate him as a post-June 1st cut, you save $19 million. It's a lot of money, but you couldn't use it this year, which doesn't help you that much for paying your own guys. I think there are two options here for DeMarcus Lawrence. The numbers don't look great, but once he came back from the injury, a splash play or two every single game. Outside of Micah Parsons, Trayvon Diggs, I thought he was the best player on that Cowboys defense once he came back from his injury. I think there are two routes here that you can go if you're the Dallas Cowboys as it relates to Marcus Lawrence. You can dump him and cut him. Of course, you try to trade him first, but come on. Or you extend him and keep him on the fold at a lesser cap hit. So what would you do with Tank? Because you can't keep him at his current cap hit. That's a bad business move. Type E for extend or type in D for dump. Amari Cooper is the next name up here. $22 million cap hit. It's too much money. You're in a similar situation. There's very little guaranteed money left on Cooper's deal. If you cut him, you save $16 million. That's pre-June 1st. That's a lot of money. You could give that money to Michael Gallup and maybe Cedric Wilson too, but now you structure the deal with Gallup coming off the injury. You are faced with a choice now for Amari Cooper. You have two options, just like with DeMarcus Lawrence. Number one, restructure Amari Cooper. Keep your number one receiver in the fold. The offense is better when he is involved. I thought it was a coaching failure to not scheme him more touches in high leverage situations. Is what it is. Or you move on. And although this is cut candidates, I think Cooper is somebody you could definitely get a trade for. Would you get a first back? I'm not so sure, but maybe. So what would you do with Amari Cooper? Type K for you'd keep him. Type T for you trade him, get, let's just say, a second-round pick back. Or type C for you would cut him. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. Offensive line time. Tyron Smith, $17.05 million cap hit this upcoming year. Not much savings if you cut him pre-June 1st. Under $5.5 million, you're not going to find a better left tackle even for 13 games at that cost. Post-June 1st, $13.5 million. The problem here with the savings that you run into is this. The Cowboys restructured Tyron Smith's deal entering this year. Now, that you save the money or more money already, but you don't save as much right now. So you got to keep that in mind from the math perspective. Tyron Smith is great when he's healthy. He's always hurt. The past 2 years, he played in 11 games this year and like 2 games last year. He's always missed at least a handful of games. When he's healthy, he is one of the best left tackles in the NFL. And as weird as this sounds, his $17 million cap is actually one of his highest ever with the Cowboys because that deal has been a steal for Dallas. So here's my next question. You have to factor in the injuries here. Is Tyron Smith washed up? He is, by the way, coming off the worst game of his season, his worst game in a long time against San Francisco. He was bad, and that is a real concern for me as it relates to Smith moving forward. So what do you think? Why for yes and for no? Next up is La'el Collins. You also restructured his deal. That's why you save only $1.3 million with a pre-6-1 cut. Can't replace him at that cost, at least not on the talent he brings. $10 million, though, after June 1st. Could be another trade candidate, I think, for Dallas. Collins didn't look right this year. He just looked a little slow. Not 2019 Collins. And I wonder this, too. With your offensive line uncertainty and Terrence Steele being, I think, a viable option at right tackle, could you move Collins to left guard? Connor Williams is a free agent. Let him leave, insert Collins at left guard, and give him a year. And if it's not great again, cut him next season. Collins, and I'm using PFF here, so I think they overvalue the Cowboys' offensive line. Still a good run blocker, which I think is fair. Same with Tyron Smith. I like Collins at his best. Wasn't at his best this year. And the suspensions, the missing time, those are all red flags. I think the current staff was upset with Collins. So some decisions to make with the bookend tackles for Dallas. Now, we're talking about a lot of money here, right? You want to make some more money? Do it with BetUS, our sportsbook partner. Chatsports.com/bet. Promo code Cowboys125. That'll get you a 125% deposit bonus. Chatsports.com/bet. Promo code Cowboys125. My playoff picks. We'll see how it ends up going after a 500-week last go-round. Under in the Bengals-Titans game. Packers -6. Bucks -3. That is my stone cold, probably wrong, lock of the week. And Chiefs -2.5. Yes, stone cold, probably wrong, lock of the week. Chiefs -2.5 against the Buffalo Bills. All right, you knew it. You knew he was going to be on here. The kicker has not earned his name back, although he was good in the playoff game. $2.83 million cap hit for the kicker. I'm going to say it wrong, I know it. Entering the 2022 season. Because of the way his deal is structured years left-wise, you would actually save the same amount if you cut him pre or post June 1st. Zuerlein, folks, objectively speaking, was bad. He did not fare well. We have to acknowledge that with the way that Zuerlein played. He was 29-35 on field goals. He missed a ton of extra points. I was wrong, though, when I accused him of being the one who's going to cost the Cowboys a playoff game. Did not happen. His cap hit for next year isn't that high. It's 17th among kickers. Here is my compromise that I am prepared to offer John Fossil and the Dallas Cowboys. I am willing to meet you guys halfway on the kicker. You do not have to cut him right now. In fact, he can be on your preseason roster at kicker. But you must bring in competition this offseason. Entering this year's preseason with no other kicker on your roster is coaching malpractice. The kicker has not earned that right. He is not Justin Tucker. He is not even a Robbie Gould or a Jake Elliott or whoever at kicker or Daniel Carlson. You don't have to draft kicker. You can sign someone as UDFA. Kickers, outside of a handful of guys, are inconsistent from year to year. You should always have competition. The mistake this team keeps making is paying the kicker, paying the punter, and saying, okay, we're done, as it's actually bad along the way. So cut him later. That's fine. Bring in real competition this offseason. All right, tight end Blake Jarwin here. Dalton Schultz is a free agent. He's making $6.25 next year on the cap. You could save almost all of that by cutting him, but if you cut Jarwin, then you've got to re-sign Dalton Schultz because you don't have the tight ends on the roster. Sean McEwen, that's not going to get it done. So Jarwin's in that kind of wiggle room where maybe it depends on what Dallas does with Dalton Schultz and or elsewhere in the free agent draft or trade market. If the Cowboys make a cut, we will break it down, as we always do here on the Cowboys Report. So if you haven't already, hit that big red button and subscribe. Let's merge the next two guys together. Anthony Brown, first up here, and I know you guys want him cut. $6.5 million cap hit the final year of his deal. You would save $5 million if you cut Anthony Brown whenever you cut him. So that's some decent money to save, and you might be able to find a corner who's just as good or at least close to it on the open market for that figure. And at some point, probably this upcoming year, give the reins to Kelvin Joseph. He's CB2, Diggs is CB1. You want depth, you need a nickel guy too. So it's either Anthony Brown or maybe Jordan Lewis, who you consider moving on from. I actually thought Lewis was outplayed by Brown this season. Neither nearly as bad as we wanted to claim that they were. Don't save as much by cutting Jordan Lewis, but he is cheaper in the end. Their numbers this year. Jordan Lewis actually allowed more yards per target than Anthony Brown did. AB's yards are very high. Remember, the Cowboys had teams throwing it more than anyone else because they often led games fairly largely. So, who you cutting? Pick one of them. And if you want to type in neither, okay, sure. That's, I guess, fine. AB for Anthony Brown, JL for Jordan Lewis. Drop a name for me who you want to cut. Drop the comments in there right now. All right, Terrell Basham. We'll go faster on these last names because not as much savings. Basham saves you $1.75 over half of his cap hit. He provides serviceable depth. This might be what happens with Dorrance Armstrong. If Armstrong comes back super cheap, you could probably cut Basham, but he was fine this year. He's not an elite edge. He's never going to be, I don't think. He also was a bit banged up early this year. Depth, he's fine. He's not that expensive. Because I know you're going to mention Tristan Hill, I threw him on here. I think you should let, though, Tristan Hill fight again for a roster spot. You save a pretty decent amount of the cap savings there if you were to move on from Tristan Hill. The way his deal is set up, you would pretty much save all of it. There's not any real guaranteed money left on the deal at this point. He made some flashes. He also came back late. I think next camp, it is put up or bye-bye time for Tristan Hill because he didn't make much of an impact this season. And the name you guys want to cut but doesn't make any real sense to, Ezekiel Elliott. $18.2 million cap hit. Yikes, by the way. The problem is this. Because you've constantly restructured Zeke's deals to keep that number early in his career and his contract down lower, and now he's not playing great coming off the injury, the cap hit swelled, and you've guaranteed future money. If you cut Zeke right now or anytime before June 1st, you lose an additional $12 million. His cap hit becomes $30 million. Not a chance. Not a chance in hell you cut him pre-draft. Post-draft, or make him a post-June 1st cut, and you save $0. Now, I'm not factoring in any potential injury guarantees. I think Zeke might actually have some there. So, here's what I'm saying. Unless you can give his team a trade for Zeke, he ain't going anywhere. He's going to be on your team. What you need to do is do a better job of utilizing Tony Pollard and use both of those backs as key parts of your offense, or at least use Pollard a little bit more.